Hi everyone, I'm Victor Assad. I'm the author of Hack Recruiting. And in Hack Recruiting, I am telling CEOs in the HR world about this wonderful new age we're in with digitization in HR. HR now has the same tools that have been available to marketing, and HR can build great employer brands, find and attract to themselves new employees, and do all sorts of outstanding work with technology throughout everything really in HR. It's a brave new world for us. I am very pleased today to be with Angela Hood, who I'm in her office in wonderful Austin, Texas. And Angela is the founder and CEO of ThisWay Global. Full disclosure, this is a technology I use. I have found it to be very successful. And when I first heard about artificial intelligence in HR, I'm kind of like, really? Yep. And really, it's quite something. And what really impressed me about ThisWay Global and Angela's work is her work in idea space in 3 years at the University of Cambridge with an international team putting together an artificial intelligence platform for recruiting. And to start, I think it'd be great if you walk us through that, because many people say to me, how is this different than a list? Well, you have no idea. It's quite amazing. Please tell us about it.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for not only being a customer, but also for your thought leadership in HR and
my pleasure.
It's very needed. So I think that the way I look at technology is that it's an essential part of business. Mm-hmm. And it happens to be that we picked the vertical of HR. Right. The reason why is because I don't think there's anything more important than a person being able to find an employer that they enjoy working for, that they can thrive and they can put food on the table. And I think you have employers also benefit greatly from having such engaged employees. And so my kind of passion around this is to bring them together in a more effective way. The way we go about doing that happens to be through the use of technology. Mm-hmm. But we sit at the very top of the funnel. So we are in the talent acquisition sourcing that stage. And we don't go beyond that. So we don't actually reach out and communicate with the candidates on behalf of the employer. Mm-hmm. And that's for a very specific reason. I think the most important part of starting that engagement is for the candidate to understand what the company is offering, what the company's value proposition is, mm-hmm. and the company needs to be able to put that in their own words and in their own methods. Right. And so we don't do that part. Okay. We are strictly technology. We are not. We don't have anyone that does recruitment in our company. Mm-hmm. And all of this was, as you said, the initial R&D was out of Cambridge. I was fortunate to have been incubated at University of Cambridge's Idea Space, mm-hmm. and had access to just some wonderful brains. I mean, right. Some of the best minds in the world. But what people don't realize is oftentimes these people that are the best brains in the world have also been overlooked for employment. They don't necessarily interview well, so they understand the problem. Yes. And they say, okay, I also don't want to be overlooked. And I want my mathematical abilities and my computational skills to be able to lend to the solution. So we were able to enlist people from 9 different countries to help us. And I think it really gave us insight into how to approach the problem. But we did fail quite a lot before we were able to find an unbiased matching solution that really could level the playing field. Okay, wow.
So tell us, how does this technology work? How does it go about finding people?
So we solved 2 problems. Mm-hmm. So we addressed 2. We said, all right, first problem is you have too many applicants, mm-hmm. and not enough of them are qualified, and you're not getting to the qualified ones fast enough. Mm-hmm. So that's one side. The other side is you know that there's talent out there, or you feel like there should be talent out there that can do the job, but they're not applying, or you just are not finding the right combination. Mm-hmm. And obviously there's a lot of social sites that are very popular among recruiters, and those are decent at surfacing people, but they don't rank and score them. Right. And they don't surface people in a unique way. Mm-hmm. And the use of ontologies is how we were able to surface individuals that were being overlooked. Mm-hmm. And once we identified that, we're like, okay, this is really meaningful. Not just meaningful for the company, but also meaningful to the candidates that are being overlooked, and they don't understand why.
So for the viewer, what's an ontology?
Oh, yes, right. Okay, so probably everyone remembers taxonomies from school when we're talking about species.
Yes.
So species taxonomies. The level deeper than that is an ontology. And so I'm going to give you an example because I think this is the easiest way to understand it. If a person is a Mandarin translator, we know that they translate Mandarin language. So let's say they're an English and Mandarin translator. So they understand both languages, can translate both. And let's say we've got two employers. One is the U.S. Department of Defense, and one is a Nike manufacturer. Okay, so we all know with our brains that the job's probably not the same job. Like, it's the U.S. Department of Defense, and maybe it's with Intelligence Division. If they're looking for a Mandarin translator, it's a different job. If it is a Nike manufacturer, then they need to have supply chain management skills. They have a background that's very different. And so ontologies are how the system is able to identify that, because the system is not a human brain. It can't make those decisions. So it has to be taught that these two organizations are very different. And so the Mandarin translator, ranking and scoring of a Mandarin translator would be very different. So on one list of individuals that we would surface via the AI, the one that has the right security clearances and the right background would be for the Department of Defense. And the one that has all the right ISO requirements and the right supply chain experience would be the right match for Nike. But that goes into every type of job. So in the medical field, you see this with nursing. A nurse for ER is not the same thing as a travel nurse oftentimes. And so our ontologies learn all of those things. We've built ontologies around 48,000 jobs. And we understand kind of profiles on individuals to the score about 350 million globally and 125 million in the US.
Wow, that's huge. That is huge. So, do you have some success stories that you can share with us about your customers?
Fortunately, yes. We would not still be in business if we didn't. I think success stories oftentimes focus around the person who's paying you, right? So the employer. But we also measure success based off of the candidates. So a lot of times we will get messages sent via like our contact page, and it will say, you don't know me, my name's Bob or whatever, and I've just found a new job with an employer that I absolutely love, and it was because your system matched me. And I don't know who you are, and I don't know what you do, but thank you. And that's amazing to get these kind of unsolicited responses, you know? I think the next level of success has been from entities like universities who are our partners. We have almost 3,000 partners. And these are people who are, or organizations like labor unions and trade organizations that are all sharing their members with our employers, their customers. And when they find that their members are more successful, then they will call us and they'll say, you know, our pipe fitters just got a ton of new jobs with the pharma company that you're working with. And it comes out of nowhere. And so the team always gets really excited about that. I think more common is what you hear from the customer. So the customers, we focus on removing bias, and they are always amazed because the list of the best ranked candidates will pop up, right? And sometimes we'll say, I know number 1, I know number 7, I've never heard of 2 through 6. And I thought I knew every accountant in San Jose. You know, and so once that starts being surfaced, that's where they come back to us and say, you know, we've been using all of the typical recruitment tools, and somehow you're surfacing people we've never talked to before, and that's really what they need to be competitive.
Good. Well, I've heard that too. So who's the ideal client for ThisWay Global? Is it big company, small company? in between?
So, so it's an interesting question because the technology was designed for very big companies, and we find that that is where our initial traction comes from. But we also have this set of people that consult with very big companies, or they are advisors. They have different levels of interaction with very large companies. And so they're using our technology to, in the end run, they're supplying very large companies with success.
Yeah.
But it's through the use of our technology. And because of the way our technology works, they don't necessarily, the company doesn't necessarily know that it's us that's providing that technology. But I would say that more times than not, it's mid-market to enterprise.
Okay.
Our technology does work no matter the number of applicants you have. Doesn't matter about that, and it doesn't matter about the number of jobs or the sector. So it's not like we are particular in manufacturing or we are in nursing or we work all sectors. We've never found a sector that we could not work in. And in fact, during South by Southwest here in Austin, we had a Bring It challenge. Which we challenged employers to bring any job to us, and we would show them matches. And they brought some doozies to us, but we were able to find matches for all of them, even some very, very odd ones.
That's quite a success story.
Yeah.
So if you were sitting in the chair of a HR leader, and they need to find talent, attract talent,
Right.
and they're trying to figure out what technology to buy. What advice would you give this HR leader?
So I think first they need to think through what really is the problem. Now, so I will tell you that one of the things that we've learned is that some of the problems are not necessarily problems that technology can solve. So if the company has not identified that they have biases inside the company that's keeping them from finding great candidates, and one of these biases that I think more and more people are coming around to is, where was your degree from, or do you have a degree? About half the people in my engineering team do not have a degree, and they are the best coders possibly you could find, right? And it's because they were self-taught and because they didn't need to go get a college degree to learn how to do what they do. And I find it very short-sighted to have these kind of constraints. And so I can't, our technology, right, can't help open people's minds.
Right.
We can provide them technology that provides them access to people that are very talented that fit the needs for the job. But I think first step is the recruiting team needs to have sometimes an adjustment in the mindset. And I think a lot of times it's not the recruiters that are the challenge, it's upward management that's never recruited in their life.
Right.
And they're kind of pushing down some things onto the recruiters. So we try to provide content to help our recruitment partners explain why they need to approach things a bit differently in the modern age.
So, recently there's been a lot of blogs that have come out and have talked about bias.
Yes.
And the bias from technology. And it goes to Amazon.
Yep, of course.
And they had a software they used for a long time that actually was written by male programmers looking for skills of programmers, and got written into their software were, I'll call it, male biases. And Amazon pulled back on this and did not use it anymore when they saw this bias in there. And so, we all have our own biases as people, and then talk to us about technology biases.
Yeah. So as individuals, we have over 500 biases that we bring to basically every interaction. So it's a bunch.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I thought I was bad.
Right. Most of them are subconscious, right?
Okay.
And it's part of our survival mechanisms. It's learned by, hey, we saw, a tiger eat our friend, so tigers are bad, right? And that gets promulgated over a period of time. So now fast forward, we look at people, we look at their resume, we don't like the font they picked, all kinds of things, right, that cause us to have bias. Candidates also have bias, though. They have just as many biases.
Yeah.
And they have that about the person they interview with. They have that about the person that they talk to on the phone.
Right.
So bias is a thing that we really need to strip out of both sides. And this is why our tech failed so many times, is we kept trying to get the bias out of it, and it failed. It's embarrassing to say, but it failed 13 times.
Wow.
And I feel like that we have an obligation to be very transparent about this, because I do think people need to understand it is very difficult. It's hard to do. But for me, I'm a female engineer, and I grew up in construction, and I loved construction, but it was difficult being a female on job sites. And so I understand some of the things that go on with that. I think that the core is you have to focus on it. You have to commit to it. Removing bias was our number one objective. It was not, and also we will remove bias after it became popular. When we were removing bias, it was not popular, and people thought I was a bit nuts. So we finally got it stripped out, and what we found that happened was it's not just gender bias, it's not just ethnicity, it's bias around the school you went to. It's bias that you grew up in a certain city, or you grew up in a city versus the country. It's crazy, the number of biases. One of the greatest biases is a picture. And this is why none of our profiles demonstrate a picture of the person. So we don't want to show that. We also don't show names until later in the stage, because that's a huge bias. And we do everything that we can to strip away as much of the bias. And I still have bias, and I do this all day, every day. And the way I know that I have bias is we use our own technology for our own company. Okay, we eat our own dog food, as they say, right? And I will populate, and I'll see all of everything's hidden, right, except for the key details, so that I can see who I want to talk to for an interview. And then I will enrich, and so now this is where I see the name, and I see their email and phone number and things. And when I enrich, I will be surprised. And I don't know why I'm surprised. It's not like I think there's going to be men or women, or there's just something about the people that will populate. And that's how I know I had bias before this happened.
Just for the viewer, enrich means you see not just the qualifications, but the person's name and more information.
You see the identifying details.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I know that I have bias. I know my team has bias. And so I'm proud of our technology. I'm proud of the team that we've created technology to help around that. But the recruitment team also has to believe it's important.
Right.
If they don't, then they won't use it.
Okay. So, so tell me, what's new for ThisWay Global?
We have some very cool news. So we were fortunate to have been selected for one of the top innovations, and we will be pitching at HR Tech this year in Vegas. I know, we're very excited.
October 1st through the 4th.
That's right. We actually pitch the night of October 1st, right after Barbara Corcoran from Shark Tank. She does her bit, and then we pitch right after that. So that's a good spot. And then there's a pub crawl. So we got a good spot. And then we are also announcing that we have a new Salesforce app. And so the entire AI for Jobs platform is going to be available via Salesforce. So huge staffing companies are on Salesforce, as well as very large enterprise employers. We also use Salesforce, have found massive value out of it. So it led us to go down this path, and we have tripled our revenue since we announced it, and that was just 2 weeks ago.
That's incredible. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's very exciting. We've just finished our greenhouse software integration with applicant tracking system, and that's going really well. We've got some great companies through the greenhouse partnership, and we plan to have 5 more applicant tracking system integrations in the next 6 months. So we're looking to finish up partnership conversations. We still have 3 slots for that. I'm hoping we will sign those up during HR Tech.
And so the advantage with the integration with applicant tracking systems is that you're putting that data right into that system.
Well, so we're doing two things. So we're putting the data right into the system, but we're also looking at their applicants for all of their jobs, and we realign them. So we rank and score and align the ones to the right jobs. So if you can imagine that a person is a junior accountant, but they have applied to a senior accountant role.
Right.
Our technology is able to move them to the job that they're most qualified for and give them alert to that.
Yeah.
And it also looks historically, it looks at past applicants and can bring them forward for job recs that are open right now. So it does some pretty good magic for the recruiter.
All right. Well, that sounds like it.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us here.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and all the best as you move into HR tech and throughout the rest of the year. You have some just great news and some great momentum.
We're very excited. And if anyone that's watching this wants to reach out to me, the easiest way is to go to contact@thiswayglobal.com. Contact sits about 20 feet from me. So it does not actually go to some mystic bot.
All right.
It actually goes to a person who literally yells at me and says, "Hey, you got a message." So you can reach me there.
That sounds good. So I recommend you take a look at ThisWay Global. And also, if you haven't yet, take a look at my book, Hack Recruiting, and understand the challenges and the opportunities that are ahead of HR and the brave new world that we're stepping into. Thank you, everyone. See you soon.